Founder of Maniere De Voir. What's the company worth?
Worth is subjective. I mean, worth is what someone's willing to pay. In terms of size, 36 million probably finished. Obviously, we're nearly at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And the profits will be in the region of 6-7 million. So a conservative valuation of any business is 10 times profit. So make of that what you will.
What's going on, people? Welcome back to the CEOCAST, the number one podcast in the world for showcasing business and entrepreneurship. Now, you lot join me with the one and only Reece Wabara, the guy you've been waiting for the longest time. One of the top entrepreneurs has come straight out of the UK and has scaled his business up massively. Here we are in the heart of Dubai at Four Seasons Hotel where Reece is staying. I thought, you know what, while we're both in Dubai, let's get it, man. Let's do this podcast. What are you saying?
What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm good, bro. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on, bro. I mean, like I said to you, we were out for dinner the other day and I was actually saying, I'm actually surprised the fact that you're in Dubai, considering the time of year that it is, especially for e-com businesses. It's like you've got Black Friday coming up, you've got Christmas coming up in the next few months. How do you find time, especially at the level that you are, to take a break like this?
To be honest, I normally go in October, but I was busy shooting actually for week after week, month after month, getting all the stuff ready for the back end of the year. But I think it's important to have a week or 10 days of pure reflection before that quiet period, before that busy period. I always come up with new ideas when I take that time off, which is not often, but I always find it's like invaluable.
So talk to me then, with the time off that you got right now, the reflection that you've had, what have you kind of reflected on? New ideas come to your head in this time you're in Dubai. I can imagine you looking at the balcony thinking, oh, that's a good idea, that's a good design. So what have you kind of reflected on and thought about?
I mean, I still work. I'm still like doing what I would do back home on my laptop, etc. Obviously, I can't do the physical things, but I do fit sessions by virtual, etc. But obviously, with the time zone being 4 hours ahead, I can get a lot done in the morning and give myself the time at the back end of the day, and just reading more so really, and just like being in peace when it's sunny and you're outside and in nature, you start to think about things a bit differently. So. Nothing in particular, but just connecting a bit more dots, and when your mind's a bit more clearer, naturally more ideas come to you. So,
and do you think you can only get that sort of mindset when you're away?
No. For example, at home, I pretty much sit in silence most of the time. So when I work from home, which is normally Mondays and Fridays, people think I'm crazy, but there will be no sound in my apartment from when I wake up until I finish working. There'll be no TV, there'll be no music. It'll just be me, my own, and silence. So I think, a lot of people meditate, etc. But my meditation is just pure silence and being on my own. So I do get that thinking time alone at home as well. Yeah. Again, like I said, I'm still working, but I'm in my own thoughts and I can hear my own voice. And I think that's important for everybody at times.
Before we get into it, make sure you subscribe and set the bell notification to all so you never miss a single episode. So being in a country like this, does it ever make you think that, I'd move here to get that sort of peace, extra peace? Especially, you're living in London, right? London can be a chaotic city. It's traffic all the time. Just people always horning. I'm pretty sure you probably hear that from your apartment, right? So does it not make you think, let me just come out of that city and come here, somewhere like Dubai, somewhere like America or even Europe, just to get that extra peace?
No, I think when the sun's out, distractions are out. When the sun's out, there's parties, there's beach club, there's women, and all of those things are distracting. So as much as London is hectic, as hectic as you make it. So like I said, most of the time I'm inside, you know what I mean, in my own house and just taking it easy. And obviously if I choose to step out into the city, that's my choice. And I invited that distraction. But when the sun's out, we'd all be fools to stay inside, right? So I don't know. I mean, I would like to say I have high levels of discipline, but nevertheless, I'm only human. So being in Dubai and, people flying in and out the city, and it takes 30 minutes to get from one end to the other. Yeah,
there's always a motive in Dubai.
There's always a motive. Whereas in London, if someone comes in, it could be 2 hours away anyway to link them. So
and then you just think, nah, that's long.
Exactly. So as much as London is a busy city, it's everything takes time. So it's not to take up those distractions. It's a lot of effort. Whereas here, you're down the road and you're there. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, even right now, me and you, like, it seems like we're far apart on the map, but literally it's 20 minutes. If that, it took me 20 minutes to come here, etc. And it's just crazy. Talk to me about, like, your daily routine. I feel like people want to know about that as well, because the discipline that you have, surely an entrepreneur of your level has to have, like, a disciplined daily routine. So what's, like, 3 non-negotiables that you start off with when you wake up?
I don't even, people read like the 5 a.m. club and all that stuff. I don't really believe in that. I believe in doing the same things for a decade and obviously improving the efficiency over a decade consistently. So I don't wake up and say, oh, I need to meditate or I need to do X, Y, and Z. The most important is I do the work that I was supposed to be doing when it's supposed to be done. So, for example, I live in London. I travel to Manchester every Tuesday morning religiously, unless I'm super ill or obviously there's something I need to do in London. So that's part of the routine, just making sure you make that 3-hour journey to the office. You have a 10 a.m. fit session. You have design meetings at lunch, and when in the office, I don't have any breaks because obviously the fasting, etc. So from the moment I touch down in the office, I might not leave till 8, but I'm working flat out through those days. Every day is a different thing. Like I said, on Tuesday, there's some fittings. There might be design meetings, briefings. Wednesday might be meeting with finance, operations, customer service. Thursday's fittings again. Might be shoots. So it can vary, but what is non-negotiable is that I don't say, you know what, let me just stay at home this week. I make sure I always do what I need to do. I always find time to read. I always find time to learn. But yeah, I think just being consistent for a long time, and when you start to see the fruits of your labor paying off, don't stop doing them. And I think that is criminal in a lot of situations where people start to see numbers, and whether that's you're an artist, you're a footballer, they start to do well and they stop doing what they did in the beginning. And I'm super paranoid in that aspect. And when even on holiday, I have to work, because the moment I don't, I feel like someone's catching me. And it's not that I'm scared to be caught in a sense, and someone will. That's how the game goes. But at least I can say they beat me through immense talent, not from outworking me. That's not gonna happen. I'm never gonna sit there and regret, because what people forget as well is that I already threw away a prosperous, high-level potential career when I was a footballer. I had a lot of talent and I was touted to be X, Y, and Z, and I failed. So I know how that felt, and it's not going to happen again. And I'm happy that those situations happened to me. So now I know, okay, Reece, you can achieve X, Y, and Z. Don't let yourself ultimately be the root of that failure.
Yeah, we'll get into your football career very shortly, but before we do, I just want to ask, what's been it like moving from Manchester to London? That transition, and you go back and forth to your office every single week. So you stay in your apartment from Friday to Monday, am I right? And then from Tuesday to Thursday up in Manchester.
Correct, yeah.
What's that like? People usually have their offices close to where they live, or at least within the same city, but you said, no, I'm going 3 hours away.
Yeah. I think it's that disconnect. When I lived in Manchester and the offices were local, my phone or the staff could call me at any given time and say, can you come into the office? And I was there most of the time anyway, but it was always like there was no separation. And like I said, when I'm at home, Monday to Friday, my family don't live in London. My closest friends don't live in London. I'm quite isolated, and that creates that separation, which allows me to, like I said, not have distractions and be alone, and have time to think, and not be down the road where people can pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm coming over, or can you come into the office? And also just on the true reason for moving was, comfort zone. I never actually liked London. Like you said, it was always a crazy busy city, expensive.
And just for people who don't know, you're originally from Birmingham.
Okay, exactly.
Cool.
The reasons was it completely against why, what I wanted to do. Manchester's cool, it's affordable, it's peaceful, it's not too much traffic, and London's the complete opposite. However, I know that in Manchester, with all due respect, it's a limited city. As much as it's got amazing things going on, London is the hub of the globe, effectively. So I wanted to surround myself with people who are wealthier than me, are smarter than me, more experienced than me. And obviously where I decided to live, that's what I'm surrounded by. So when you're bumping into random people, the conversations or the level of conversations are completely different. They're not impressed by anything I have, and I love that. Do you know what I mean? So everyone has a nice car, everyone lives in a nice place, so you're just another guy. And at that point, everybody gives you the same level of respect. So no one's looking up to you saying, oh, that's that guy, or he's got this, they don't care. So then the level of conversation is just straight. And not only that, you know, taste levels. You're surrounded by buildings which are made by the best architects. You've got the best shopping centers. You've got Harrods, Selfridges. You get to see everything on a clothing perspective. People dress differently. You see the restaurants that you see different nationalities coming in and out of the city, and that brings a level of taste. And I'm naturally an observant person, so I like to, you know, always be scanning. And in the north or even in the Midlands, you don't necessarily get that influx of people from different nations. I feel like your taste levels can improve as well. But of course, everything like that comes at a cost.
So how long have you lived in London for now?
A few 2.5 years, I think. Yeah.
And how would you say it's elevated your mindset? How many interactions like the ones you've described have you had? How many times have you thought moving to London was actually a good thing?
Oh yeah, it was the best thing I ever did. Not just for me personally, but for the brand. Like I said, my taste levels, what I was exposed to. Like I said, naturally just observing people, how they dress, spotting patterns increased massively. As far as those interactions, like I said, you can't have too many when you're in the house. Nevertheless, the interactions you do have are of a higher level. And that hasn't necessarily benefited the business as such, but on a personal level, you know, you never know what you might get from somebody, and that interaction was lacking in the north. Like I said, if I was going to the shopping centre in the north, people would stop me and would ask. I would be the guy to speak to, and I don't want to be. I want to be just cut through. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Not even that. I just don't want to be the. I don't want to be the go-to guy. I want to be the guy who goes to. Do you understand? That's how I keep growing.
So you always want to be the one to seek knowledge rather than people seeking knowledge from you. It's like exactly like that.
Yeah, like I love to give it and I love to share what I've learned. But ultimately, in order for me to keep growing, I need to be the person who's learning from other people, and that obviously grows ever increasingly hard as I and the business progress. But it's really important. That I keep seeking that knowledge from other people or experiences.
So I'd ask you on that note, right? You don't really do many podcasts or many interviews.
No.
So firstly, I appreciate this. But secondly, why is it that you're doing this podcast?
My respect for you. You reached out to me a long time ago, and I saw a small channel then, but a guy who had hustle. And obviously your channel's grown exponentially since then, and the clients you've had on the channel increasingly, you know, becoming bigger and better as such. So I mean, I always like to see people who are grinding and put their money where their mouth is or take action, and you've done that. So I mean, like I said, if you hit a top, what was it, 50k?
I think we said 50k, and that was back when I was on 20 or 30, I believe. It was when I was done Lewis. So I think I had just hit 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, you hit it, so here we are. Like I said, I have to stay true to my word. So but like I said, if I see someone hustling, I will reward them. Not with me, but even employees. If I see someone grinding, I'm going to do as much as you for you, because I see you trying to put yourself on the line, you know what I mean?
I appreciate that. This episode is sponsored by Fireaway Pizza, the fastest growing pizza company in the UK. With over 100 locations, you definitely have a store near you. The founder of Fireaway was on the show not too long ago, and you can get a slice of the action by using the discount code CEOCAST at fireaway.co.uk. Once again, use the discount code CEOCAST at fireaway.co.uk. Let's talk about your story then, right? So Reece, founder of Maniere De Voir, how big is it today? What's the company worth?
Worth is subjective. I mean, worth is what someone's willing to pay. And of course, we're in a recession now, and a lot of fashion businesses are actually really, really suffering because of the inflation, the rising costs across the supply chain. So what is worth is subjective. I'm not even going to put a number on it. But in terms of size, 36 million probably finished. Obviously, we're nearly at the end of the year, and the profits will be in the region of 6-7 million. So, you know, a conservative valuation of any business is 10 times profits. So, make of that what you will. Of course, I would never sell for that because that's, you know, like I said, being conservative, and the business has got a lot of growing to do. It's still a baby in the grand scheme of things. So, you know, a fast-growing business is 20 times profits, but like I said, it really depends on what someone's willing to pay. And right now, I don't think anybody's willing to pay anything for anything in fashion because there's all profit warnings across the board.
Have you had any offers?
Yeah, many times.
And none of them have ever thought, that's worth it, or you're tempted by it?
No. I always said this, and it's funny you asked that question, because I remember when I said, it was about 3 or 4 years ago, I said, when we get to 20 mil revenue, I'm going to stop because I don't think I can take it any further. And obviously we surpassed that. And going back to what I said earlier is, as long as you're forcing yourself to grow, you'll always find an extra yard, do you know what I mean? And we're at nearly 40 million now, and we've got big plans upcoming, and I don't think I've reached 20% of what's possible. So maybe when I get to 80% of what I think is possible, and there's somebody somewhere that can take it way bigger than I can, or maybe even I don't want to, because it gets corporate, it gets stressful. You can't have the personal interactions with your staff. It gets too big, do you know what I mean? So at that point, when I think I can take it as far as I can, or as far as it's enjoyable, then I'll consider the office. But right now, it's not about the money, because I can do nearly everything I want now within reason anyway. Having all of that money to do what? I'm going to be working anyway. So I always say to people, what would I do? And even when people say to me, oh, Reece, like, we always work. And I say, what's the alternative? What else would we be doing? I don't have kids. I see my family as much as I need to, want to. So what else are we going to be doing? At the end of the day, we're here to make a difference and make a change and bless other people, whether that's staff or through knowledge sharing. And I think that's my duty. Do you know what I mean? So
having kids, just touching on that there, having kids, obviously you haven't got any kids yourself right now, but being 30 years old, is it something that you want to do eventually, have wife, have kids? But at the moment, do you think it's not a distraction, that's not the right way to put it, but it will take you away from the path that you were trying to go down?
Yeah, of course, but having kids is, in my opinion, the most beautiful thing in the world. So that, of course, is an objective. And if you meet the right person and you want to have kids, the work shouldn't come in between that, especially if you're in a position financially and mentally to support the child, which I am. So now, I mean, if I met the right person and we both wanted to have a child today, let's do it, do you know what I mean? And work comes second after that point. But right now I don't have those, so it's full drive mode until I do you understand? But I want to be, of course, a man, in my opinion, must have a purpose. They must always have something to build to, but not at the expense of your children or your relationship with your children. So, yeah.
No, fair play. Reece, man, let's dive it all the way back. 30 years old, as you said in the beginning, raised and born in Birmingham, right? So where does this all start for you? Your whole journey to entrepreneurship? I want to start at your school life, because you went to school with Lewis Morgan, right? So obviously, crazy entrepreneur that he is anyway. So what was it like for you in school?
Yeah, we're just normal kids. I was raised in Quinton until I was 13, 14. So that was predominantly black area, a lot of crime, etc. And my dad made the decision to move to Bromsgrove at that time, just because of the stuff I was getting caught up in and the potential path that could go down. So I respect him for doing that. And, you never know how life could have panned out if that choice wasn't made. Yeah. Like I said, I moved to Bromsgrove, which is a predominantly all-white area, so 2 culture shocks there, which was difficult for me in the building in the beginning. But in the first day of school, I met Lewis. He will vouch for the story. I think I came into school, so I'm 13, bigger than everybody, and there was a basketball small court, and I took a shot from half court. Yeah. First time, straight through. Everybody thought I was like some superhuman. And then, me and Lewis just clicked from then. And like I said, just normal kids. Like, I was quite smart, so to speak. But obviously, Lewis is very smart, but he wasn't like knowledge smart. Yeah. But it was just normal kids, going to school, going back, playing Gears of War on Xbox, playing RuneScape. But none of us would have thought we would be where we are today. Do you know what I mean? It was, I think that shows how even our other friend Reece, we're all, doing okay in life, and it goes to show our mentalities of friends. We don't really bullshit each other. We're straight up. We check each other. We say what we need to say, and we all push each other to improve. But none of us came from all working class backgrounds, broken homes, them more so than me. So I had it better in that aspect. My parents were together until I was 16 at least. Just
a quick one to break down there. So when you were in school, chilling with Reece and Lewis, were you interested in business back then? Did you study business studies or ever talk about things you want to do in the future in terms of setting up your own business? Or was it just literally come back from school, put Xbox on, do the same thing on repeat?
Yeah, it was no talk about business. If any of us had that entrepreneurial spirit with me, I was like buying stuff from the equivalent of AliExpress now and selling it. You understand? Or I was hustling Pokemon cards or Yu-Gi-Oh cards, selling them on eBay when I was young. But that was just to, make a quick 100 and 200. And as a kid, you feel like a millionaire when you got a few hundred quid. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that was obviously entrepreneurial, no doubt. But mostly, no, it wasn't like a conscious thought. It was just made sense. Do you understand? But no, none of us talked about business. None of us talked about money. And going back to what I said about RuneScape, I think that taught us all a lot. I was, there was like I can't even remember, it was years ago, but there was like
I remember you telling me, but I can't remember what it was either.
Yeah, it was like Durok's armor, for example. So the armor came in 4 pieces.
Yeah.
And I connected the dots. I was saying, okay, the set sells for 1.5 million, but I can buy each of the 4 pieces at 200K. You know what I mean? So there's a 600K profit, whatever it is.
Right there, yeah.
Then I started to do that. So I was buying all the individual pieces and then selling them as a set. And I was just making money. And then again, not consciously knowing that's being an entrepreneur. And then Lewis and Reece started to do it. And then all of us on RuneScape were RuneScape
entrepreneurs.
Yeah. And
RuneScape entrepreneurs.
Literally. And that was and that was it. The entrepreneurial came. Lewis started that, of course. And he started Gymshark. And I think after like a year, it was still tiny at the time. He said, "Oh, Reece, you need to do something in fashion." I was like, cool, because I always had a way of dressing, even when I was super young. You know what I mean? I got criticized for playing football as a 17-year-old. People used to laugh when I was young, saying, "Why are you wearing them?" Stuff like that. So I always had like a natural interest for fashion and design. And at the time, it just made sense. I didn't really think too much of it. I was like, all right, cool. Like I said, I had the natural entrepreneurial tendencies, buying, selling, buy low, sell high. So that stuff made sense. Even the cost prices, like, well, if we're paying $14 for something and we're selling it for £50, I know we're good. There's no overheads. It just kind of made sense to me. But yeah, I started the brand. And like I said, it wasn't really, I didn't really have an objective for it. I just made at the time what I wanted and couldn't find. And the philosophy is not too different now.
So when you were starting off the brand, were you essentially, like you said, buying pieces for yourself to wear, right? Did you still have it in your head then to start as a business? Or did you think, if I just get this from this manufacturer or this place here, I can wear it and potentially sell it later on down the line?
Nah, it was a business at the beginning.
Okay.
But the concept of what you're saying is true. I literally just said, I want this type of tracksuit, but one, or maybe I couldn't afford it or didn't want to spend the money. And I took inspiration from several different high fashion
labels
brands and put something together and then it sold. And it was the same process. It's a little bit different now, but from the early stages, that's what it was. It was just like taking high fashion inspiration, creating something new with it, which is that's the game. That's what everybody does.
Were you manufacturing the stuff yourself?
No. It's all China from the beginning.
But now it's different. Now you're manufacturing stuff, right?
What do you mean by that?
As in, rather than getting supply from, for example, China like you was back then, making your own stuff, or
it was always custom design, so it was always like from my head. But the manufacturing,
so it was never white label.
No, never, and that's something it won't work in today's market. Even there was a little phase in active where you could white label, but it's different now. No, it was always like custom. Like in the beginning, I didn't know how to CAD. I didn't have any designers, so I knew how to use Photoshop, a bootleg version. And I was just like drawing arrows, fitting it in my apartment, fitting it on my female friends at the time, saying, yeah, that fits. But I didn't really understand size specs. I didn't understand construction. It was just like, that looks good and I know it will sell. I guess that's what, in essence, a buyer is. Yeah. Now it's completely different. I can size specs, garment text, construction. I know all of that to a higher level. But in the beginning, it was as simple as, I can't find that anywhere. That looks good. And I know people want it. And that's how I saw.
Before MGV, you were into football. So by this point, Reece and Lewis would have gone to college.
Yeah.
And you didn't go to college, am I right in saying that?
No.
And you went straight to football. So what was that like for you? Was a footballer, like you said, you mentioned earlier in this podcast, that could have been a career for you that would have taken off. So why didn't it? Where did it go from there?
It was my fault. I mean, like I said, I signed for Man City when I was 14, I believe. And obviously I was in Birmingham at the time. So that was kind of a big thing, like, signing from a Midlands team to go north. And I was only going to school 3 times a week. So again, going back on the train, I was on the train as a kid from from Birmingham to Manchester, train, come back, go to school. But to answer your question, my fault. I was complacent. I didn't go hard enough. It was too easy up until probably 18, and then everyone started to catch me up.
Okay, I was gonna say, in what sense was it easy?
I was the best player. I was.
So what were you like, almost chilling out a bit because you knew you were the best?
You're a kid. You don't have that kind of understanding. You just it happens every day. You know, whether you're an artist, footballer, businessman. When it's easy and you don't know it's easy until retrospect, you don't go hard. Yeah. So now, as an individual, even if I'm flying, I never think it's easy, because this could be the golden years and I didn't maximize. It could also be the hardest years of my life and I don't know. I try and treat every moment as like death ground. I need to go hard. This is my last pound. Yeah. But going back to the question, I was like, everybody was telling me how good I would be. You'll play for England. You'll be Manchester City's next right back. And I wasn't good enough. And everybody caught me up. It's crazy. You know, I always say this, like, you can't take 6 months out of the game at half effort. Somebody will overtake you. And I still believe that to this day. I went on a few loans, didn't perform. Before you know it, your time is up. And that's how fast things can change in life. And I'm very paranoid about that now. It just takes a year or two and you're done. One big mistake, you're out of the game. If
you could go back retrospectively, right, would you have changed the way your work rate was back then in terms of football?
Of course, but you can't really think like that. If I had worked hard, I'd be nearly 31 at the end of my career now, and I'm sure I wouldn't be. I know it's not all about financial success, but I wouldn't be in the position I am now. So because of that scenario, that created the beast I am, like how my mentality is, it created that. I experienced what going from nearly top to nothing to going to League One. Again, I did start to pick it back up. I did perform, but then I was playing against politics, for example. But yeah, even on touching on that subject, like I said, let's say my potential was 100. Hypothetically speaking, I had to drop down to 30, and I climbed up to 40, 50, and then the politics started to play. At this time, for example, I was playing for Wigan. We got promoted, team of the year, etc. And then I remember meeting the manager, and he said, "Oh, you know, you've been fantastic, but I feel like you focus on the business too much." My response is that, look at the numbers.
On the MDV.
Yeah. I was like, look at the numbers. I've been voted the best player in my position by my peers who've just been promoted, etc., etc. And I knew I was playing a game of politics. So in that moment, going back to what I said about me failing to fulfill my potential from not going hard enough, not to being too complacent, when I kind of started to get that switch, because obviously I was still doing the business 2 to 3 years in, and it was still, the switch had happened, so I had to apply that to business.
Yeah.
And of course, naturally, I applied that to football as well. So I was going hard and the results were speaking. But when the results were speaking and somebody was still shutting the door on my face, then I thought to myself, I can't have my future in somebody else's hands. Of course, I had the business, and that was me taking that stand. But then that was the moment I was like, you know what? I'm done. I remember the conversation very clearly, and I hope he watches this podcast one day, because I thank him for that, because he, in that moment, took the love away for the sport. I was like, I'm done. I remember saying to my dad at the start of the year, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. I'm going to make sure we get promoted, team of the year, etc., etc. So there's no level of doubt that people can say I'm not fully dedicated. And it still was not enough. So I said, okay, well, if I'm doing my own thing and I do X, Y, and Z, it's going to be enough. And that's where I'm at now.
So as much as you say it was your fault, do you not think it's out of your control? You know, when politics are getting involved and the door's still shutting on you, regardless of what you're achieving. I mean, it's easy to say it can be your fault, right? But to me, that sounds like you're just shutting the door on you. You've done your job. It's now out of your control.
To an extent, but, you know, as you
said...
said...
Like, in my opinion, you can't blame yourself too much, because you've done what was possible, basically.
Yeah, but it was the price you paid before that. So, for example, when people know that you was once touted and then you drop down, there's a natural conception about you. As I said earlier in the podcast, when I got the Mac Gray X6 at 19... my fate was sealed, and you dress a certain type of way. And don't forget, football now is not what it was when I was 10 years ago, effectively. People are more flamboyant. They have social media. They have crazy haircuts. The cars are normal. The clothes are normal. Yeah. Back then, it really wasn't.
Yeah.
So I was almost like the black sheep in that aspect again. And that wasn't wrong. You're right. It wasn't wrong what I was doing. That was me being Reece. That was myself. It wasn't an act because there was no influences and it was just me being me. However, you need to understand the price those actions have. You have to pay the price. The price was people saw me as flashy. They saw me as not dedicated. They saw me as focused on the wrong things. When I started a clothing business, they see it's like he just wants to have a brand. They didn't see that all of those things were Reece as a human being. They saw it as someone I was trying to be.
Okay.
Now they see it. It's funny. I bumped into old managers and old coaches, and they're like, you know what? I saw it in you, but you was misunderstood. And I say that's cool. Do you know what I mean? But and also to answer your question, it was too late when I started to prove I can be.
Okay.
It was too late. I have the reputation of too many things.
Yeah.
Of course, the ceiling's gonna be a glass one. So. In short, you just have to be exceptional from the beginning. You know what I mean? You can't it's very hard to drop down and pick it back up. It's the same in football. You don't see people be touted as the next best thing, go to another club and then be the best thing.
Yeah.
Very rarely. I mean, there will always be an exception to the rule, but once someone falls from greatness, it's very hard to pick it back up.
You mentioned there as well, right, that you had noted these things down to what you're going to do, and you were speaking about it with your dad. How much of an impact did your dad play in your life in terms of supporting you and motivating you? Was he like your right-hand man almost?
Yeah, I mean, it was his dream for me to play football. And actually, when I said I was going to stop playing, I think I was 25, 26, I can't remember. He was very unhappy, put it that way. Yeah, of course. And I think, like I said, when you come from an African background and it's footballer, lawyer, or doctor, and that's all I ever heard as a kid, you're going to be a footballer, lawyer, or a doctor. And I get that, do you understand? And that's the path that that generation think is the only way to succeed.
Yes.
So when you're saying
sports ain't even in it for Asians.
That's what I'm saying. So when you tell someone you want to make a clothing business, they say, what? That's easy. Like, you can do that on the side.
Yeah.
And I think only after 3 or 4 years, I think he came to the office actually, and he saw the staff and the offices and all the processes. And then he said, I get it now. I understand. And then obviously now he understands completely.
Yeah.
Because I'm 30 on the rise, and at 30 as a footballer, you're on the decline typically. So now it looks like a smart decision. But at the time, no, he wasn't necessarily supportive of it. But I understand. I don't take it. I don't judge for that. It was his dream and his perception of what a black male can become. And I understand that. And that, I think that mentality still remains in the world now. But he's always been supportive. Has always been for that. My mom too. I've been lucky in that aspect. They always said to me as a kid, you'll achieve whatever you want to do. They always said they saw something in me, and they didn't know where I got it from. They always said, I don't know where you get it from. But yeah, they always had my back, and I'm thankful for that.
What did your parents do for a living?
My mum works at a packaging company, and my dad is a general manager. I don't even know. I don't really know, but nothing too fancy.
You still communicate with them and everything like that properly?
Yeah.
You mentioned that they were together up until you were 16 years old. Is that something you want to speak on or no?
I mean, just people break up, right? It's just
How did that impact you being young? You still would have, or you would have just left school at that point then, isn't it?
Yeah, and I moved to Manchester at 17, so it didn't, to be honest. And I had the maturity at that age. I'm like, as long as they're happy, like, doesn't matter to me. Like, it was more my sister potentially who would affect it, but me, I was like, yo, I'm leaving the house now. I'm going to Manchester. As long as my mum's happy and her dad's happy apart, is what it is. It's all up.
Felt like a man at that point by then.
Wow. Yeah, everybody thinks they're a man at 17, but I always understood that it doesn't matter about me, it matters about them. Are they happy? Do you know what I mean?
So now that you started the brand MDV, right? Where did you take it from there? You know, you're still in football, 3 years running, you've got MDV running at the same time as well. That point of when you went serious with the brand, what sort of steps did you make to get to the place where it is at today?
Like I said earlier, the fundamentals are always to make stuff that's unattainable elsewhere, long-lasting, and desirable ultimately, and that still stands. I think along the way, you learn from analyzing data. The things that you may think are going to sell, don't sell. And you have to dissect why that is the case. Why were you so wrong? And a big thing I've learned is that sometimes things are just too cool. More so for men, but also for women.
Too cool? Too
cool, yeah. Like, too edgy. Like, not many people can pull it off, even though it might be executed good. An average person can look, or that's unfair to say, a more conservative person can look and admire it and appreciate it, but they don't have the confidence to pull it off. So just becoming more mass market, but by keeping the brand identity there. That was mostly the basis of the brand. Of course, there's a million things that go into it on a marketing perspective, perceptions perspective, operations. There's a million things that go into it, but you live and die by your product within anything. You can almost be lackluster in many areas. You can have an average customer service. Your dispatch time can be slow, but if your product is fire, people are going to pay for it and people are going to talk about it and they forgive you for the other things. I feel like a lot of businesses and entrepreneurs I speak to, they focus on all of the other parts, but the product's average. So the website's fancy, the dispatch is fast, but the product nobody wants, or it's overpriced, or...
The product being... If the product is 10 out of 10, right? Do you think you can not cut back, but it will speak for itself in a sense where you don't have to push it as much on marketing and stuff because people will be speaking about it word of mouth?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, yeah, if, let's say Zara or Louis Vuitton or whatever, if they stop marketing today, they still get sales, but they won't get as much, but they'll still grow slower. I think, a lot of people take pride in we don't do marketing. I mean, that's just wild to me. If you have something which is organically growing, a public push of marketing spend makes sense. You make it grow faster. However, I would never advise to make a product then it only sells via marketing. That's why a lot of brands now, driven from influencer channels, are struggling now because they was only selling products because somebody was wearing it, not because it was sold from the product itself.
Yeah,
I personally didn't. I probably in lifetime spent 50k on influencers, and I'm talking in nearly 9 years of business. It's just not something that...
That's nothing.
Yeah. However, if the value was there, I would, because then it's an extra boost. The problem is now, and full credit to influencers, they charge a lot. The return's not necessarily there anymore. In the beginning it was. Going back to what I said about Facebook ads in the early days, I missed an opportunity. Easy to say looking back. In the moment I thought, we're already spending enough. We wasn't. But yeah, you've got to make the product be able to sell for itself. And also a good thing I learned is longevity of product. So fashion it's a trend. Nothing stays the same. That's the way it goes. But there's some things that do stay the same. And if you can make products and try and reverse engineer them to make sure they've got a long shelf life. And of course, if you're making winter where it can't, if making high summer where it can't, but all the seasons in between, they should be able to sell year after year after year in timeless colorways, in timeless silhouettes, in timeless details. And that's what we focus on as well because we design 2 months at a time, 6 months in advance. So we're working very far ahead.
So right now you'd probably be designing for summer next year.
No, winter now actually.
For winter next year.
Winter's even further because it takes so long to produce.
Okay.
But we've already done summer, so we're on to winter now. So we're in November. And I made that decision actually because when I first started, it was more trend driven. It was more like, okay, I've seen this, I like it. Let's try and create something better than it and improve it X, Y, and Z. Now it's different. I try to kind of, the things that are good today will still be good tomorrow. The things that are timeless will still be timeless tomorrow. So I try to make in those periods timeless things. So when they drop 6 months later,
they're still going to be in trend, basically, in fashion.
And then that helps the business grow as well because you're not constantly changing your stock. You kind of got lit products there, sat there for a year, 2 years, gaining momentum actually, because again, as much as the business is successful, and within UK it's relatively big, in the grand scale it's nothing, it's tiny. So once we're attracting more customers from US, because US is 50% of our business now and growing.
Is it?
Yeah, and USA is huge, and we're still tiny there. So you can only imagine why would we kill a product which is selling when it's not even been seen by
the rest of
most of the population. Do you understand? So if it's timeless, then you keep running with your numbers. And I think fast fashion, which we're not, has got a bad stigma because they I've spoke to people from big companies way bigger than MDV, and they buy 100 pieces.
Give me an example of fast fashion actually is.
Fast fashion is trends. They see something on a picture and they make it tomorrow.
Okay.
And they make 100, they sell it.
Yeah.
If it sells fast, they'll rebuy.
Yeah.
And then it's a constant model. The problem with that now is when inflation and costs are so high, you can't be so reactive because to send things by air costs a fortune. Cost of goods, materials is higher, so and they can't sell it as cheaply anymore. And when you've got a huge operation, your overheads will eat away any profit. So fast is dead. Slow is the future for sure. Medium's the perfect. Zara's a good medium.
Yeah.
The difference with them is they own their whole supply chain, so the costs are a bit alleviated, and they have a perception of quality, so that helps them a lot. But yeah, like fast fashion is dead. I've said this for a while actually. I said it on Twitter, fast fashion is dead. The only people who will last are making quality products that last the test of time aren't just hot today and gone tomorrow.
I mean, going back to the influencer stuff we were talking about just before then, yeah, I think nowadays you're right. People can see through influencer, they ignore it. They don't really tend to buy the products anymore because they know it's just a brand collaboration. Back then, at the time when Lewis is doing it with Gymshark and you're doing it yourself with MDV, it's a new thing then. So if I saw my role model wearing it on Instagram, I'm like, yo, I want that as well. But nowadays, if I saw my role model wearing the same thing, I'm like, okay, just brand collaboration, probably got paid to wear it, move on sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so what's the new version of influencer marketing now? What's the new thing that gets people popping? So aside from Facebook ads, what's another way for you to market yourself that would replace the influencer marketing?
I don't think there's any hack right now. I mean, TikTok's obviously growing super fast, and we've had some viral products, but the intention was never to go viral. We just made something we all thought was cool, and sometimes we didn't even think it was that good, and it went viral. And sometimes we thought it was the best thing in the world, and it didn't. So I felt like if you create something super, super interesting, and it can fit a wide enough audience, it's gonna pick up traction. So I also think it's flawed to follow that model of I want to make a business or I want to make a product. What channels do I put it on to make it sell? It should be the other way around. You get the natural traction and then you can push it to those channels if you need to.
Would you say TikTok works for you? Because this is how I can imagine it, right? Your clothes aren't the most expensive. You get the most cheapest, right? And TikTok, I'd like to say there's probably a whole load of younger following on there as well. So if they come across MDV, they might not be able to afford MDV. So do you think that's an avenue that really works for you, or?
It does because obviously with TikTok it's video, and people make crazy cool videos. So when women in particular, men aren't really like that, but when women are showing videos of their new trousers, and obviously they're doing the packaging and
unboxing, everything like that,
and people can see, wow, this looks good. And then yes, I agree, it is more expensive than most brands, but still within the realms of affordability. Women will stretch to that because they'll be like, you know what, I'm tired of fast fashion. This looks good. The videos don't make it look like a catfish product. It fits so good. There's no clips, and we don't shoot with clips ever. So we make sure everything fits. They try it once, and then they probably won't try another fast fashion brand. They'll probably stick to our level, which is probably high street, a little bit above and above. So it does work, but your product, the good thing about video is you can't lie on your product. That's why a lot of brands don't do it. So when people are doing hauls and the fabric's thin and it fits like crap, there's no hiding place. So it works in our favor in that aspect. But the pricing thing is, for example, we increased our prices 60% this year. And that decision actually came from the UK, funny enough, because UK have had it so good for so many years on a retail perspective. You've got brands giving free returns, free delivery, discount every week, pay now, buy later, whatever it is.
Klarna, that sort of stuff,
So they're spoiled. So they expect everything for nothing. And I saw that our returns rate in the UK was higher than most regions, much higher than the US. US spent more, UK spent less, UK returned more, US return less. So I was like, you know what? These UK customers, 25% of them are costing us money. They're not profitable customers. I'm going to price them out. Of course, you get a little bit of backlash, but then the US and the EU, they didn't mind for the cost increase. So US and EU continue to grow. UK stagnates, yes, but you're more profitable within the UK now because you've got rid of those customers who just buy and return everything.
Who are costing you more.
Or use the gateways that cost more too. So I mean,
that's crazy. I want to ask you. So in the beginning days, obviously we mentioned about unboxing right there. People like a nice unboxing experience or nice packaging opening experience. So as alongside of the clothing manufacturing, how much time and effort did you put into that whole unboxing experience? Just the small details like your packaging, the way it comes delivered, etc. How important was that for you back then?
In the beginning, not so much, as because I was always like, I know the product can be better, can be better. And again, going back to taste levels, and your taste levels are only as good as your references, your reference point. So my reference point then may have just been Zara. I was a Zara shopper when I was younger. Even when I was a young footballer, I was a Zara shopper. And even Zara's reference points then to now completely, Zara's even more upscale. So if Zara's my reference point, and here's what I was making, it was online, I was happy with it. When I moved to London, my reference points completely started to change. I was going into boutiques in Sloane Street and just looking and observing. I'm thinking, we're way off it. This packaging is the benchmark. This is the reference point. This is the swing tag. This is the fabric thickness. These are all the reference points. And I took all those reference points into a high street brand. Hence why now we're continuing to grow and continue to be more profitable than ever in a recession, because the value we're providing to the customers are the reference points of high level, the execution of high level and affordable price. So I think everybody needs it's like having a job. If you have a first job and it could be the best job you've ever had, if you've only worked there, you don't know how good or how bad it is until you go somewhere else.
Yeah, you don't have nothing to compare it to.
Correct. Same in relationships. If you've only been with one person, it can be a blessing and a curse, but you may think she loves you and then you realize that's not love, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So you always need reference points, but not too many, because it gets
it can clog your brain, basically, yeah.
But in the beginning, I focused on the products, and then going back to London and being surrounded by the most expensive city in the world and most expensive everything, your reference points and your taste levels increase, which can only enhance what you're doing.
Before you had your warehouse, where were you stocking all this stuff? Obviously, I can imagine you probably had several warehouses across the years. But when you started the brand, what did you do? Have it all in your room? Or
No. It was just a small unit in just a corner of boxes, and they were just permanent marker, and it was just to pull out.
Yeah.
It could be the wrong.
In your house?
No. It was just in a unit.
Oh, okay, in a separate old unit. Okay.
Yeah. Just in the corner, like against the back of a wall. Then we had I think it was I can't remember the size exactly. I'm gonna say 1,600 square feet warehouse.
Yeah, it's not that big, is it?
No, it's not big at all. Then we went to a 10,000 square feet warehouse. Then we went to this one now. 70,000.
So between 1,600 and 10,000, the space of how long?
That was 3 years. And then another 2 years we went from 10,000 to 70,000. Because we grew a lot from 2019 to 2000 and present, effectively.
So where we are now, 70,000 square feet, is that enough for you, or you need another one now?
It is enough, because going back to what I said about the price increases, naturally when you increase prices, you drop a little bit of volume. But because your prices are higher, you net the same amount of revenue or profit. So another reason for increasing prices was the fact that it was becoming inefficient. So when you've got let's say Black Friday, for example, which is a very, very inefficient period, and most people do it for cash flow, and they don't actually make any profit, because to ship out hundreds of thousands of units costs a fortune, not just with staff, but returns, X, Y, and Z. It's an unprofitable experience for most. And we had an experience last year in Black Friday, and we always make profit and make sure of it. But the staff costs were insane. You've got 3 days of trade and you're shipping out 5-6 figures worth of units, and you've got to get loads of temporary staff in, which, because of Brexit and whatnot, rates are higher as well, inflation. Everything's going up. So you've got temporary staff and you've got agency fees. So in that period, I think we spent £1 million on.
Is it?
Yeah,
just in the Black Friday period? Yeah,
it was a little bit longer because they came in beforehand and obviously stayed a bit past after to deal with it. It's £1 million on pure staff within, a crossover of a 2-month period. And I was like, that doesn't make sense.
Nah, that's crazy.
Doesn't make sense.
So what did you do for this time?
So the strategy which I took I started actually, we announced a strategy to the team, and then me being me, observing things, I changed it as time went along. And I was like, you know what, let me try and increase prices 20%. Oh, no effect. Okay, let me push it a bit more. Anyway, I pushed it to 60 and I scaled it back down to around 40 as of now, because 60 started to have an effect. It's very hard to measure the true effect because it's the economy and whatnot, but 40 was fair anyway. But the strategy came in because I was like, with a higher increase, you have less units, which requires less staff in the warehouse, and the less requirement on temporary staff, less customer service staff, less returns. Returns cost businesses a fortune. Especially because what people forget is that when a lot of businesses offer free returns, we don't. So if you offer free returns, you're paying for it to come back. You're paying to send it out. Then what if you're selling loads of units and you've got a high returns rate. Like the average in fashion for returns is like 50%, which is wild. Ours was like 16% and it's crept up this year to like 21%. But that's only due to, I believe, obviously it's hard times. People are thinking twice about their purchase, and that's quite common across the board now where the increase in returns has happened this year. Anyway, with the returns, you're also paying a staff to reprocess it, package it, and put it back in its place. That has a cost too. Then someone else will buy it again, potentially return it, and before you know it, you've spent millions and millions and millions of pure costs on returns, which is most people's bottom line profit out of the window. So with less units, naturally you get less returns and you need less staff and less processing. So the warehouse this year and the operations is super efficient. We've had to buy less units as well to hit the growth figures. Because you're obviously at a higher retail price, and you're going to sell a little bit less. So then you take on less risk. So that strategy, I remember some of the staff saying I was crazy. Like I could.
When did you think of that strategy?
After I saw the cost at the end of the year, which was like January.
Okay, yeah.
Because obviously, we work 30 days behind before I can reconcile the performance from the previous month. I have a brief figure, but an actual pure cost. And I was like, no, this is not happening again. And also, like, I think a lot of people get caught up in fast growth of top line. And I always said, and I think when COVID, we grew really fast too. And I knew it wasn't sustainable, but they can get addicted when you see, growing 100%.
You see those numbers.
And I was like, well, yeah, we can grow 100%, but how efficient is this growth? And I was like, you know what? I prefer to stay flat and make the bottom line grow to get a true efficiency, then go again. And that's what I kind of did. I mean, we still grew this year top line. For example, the top line might grow 20%, the bottom line will grow 60%. Efficiency, the name of the game. I didn't want it to be the other way. Top line grows 60%, bottom line stays flat. What's the point? You've just spent and grew and created more stress for no reason other than to feed someone's ego like we're a fast growing business.
Yeah.
And in the current climate as well, which is global recession, people only care about profit. When things are on the rise and everybody's throwing money about, they care about fast growth. In hard times, they care about when is my return on investment coming back. And that's the climate we're entering, and the time when the business is even more viable than it was previously.
Going into this year, that's a strategy you've done. So how did your team react to that then?
Yeah, they were just like saying I'm like, not obviously I wouldn't say I'm crazy, but I could see in their eyes they're like, how?
How does it make sense?
It doesn't make sense. And I understand, because when people have less to spend, why are they going to spend more? And I remember someone said something to me, and I can't remember exactly, but something clicked in my head. It was along the lines of like, I think one of my friends came to the fit session, or he bought something or whatever. And he said to me, bro, like, you need to charge more. And a girl, she said, you need to charge more. And I was like, I don't want to increase the price, but obviously everyone else was growing up. And I was like, you know what? If the product is half as good as I think it is, if we doubled the price, it would still stand up for value. So I said, okay, let me try with 20%, 40%, 60%. Okay, let's meet at 40%. And it still stood up. And I think that's the true test of any business. If you increase your prices, naturally you're going to lose some customers, but you won't lose a lot. And losing a few customers for an extra 40% of pure profit on top of gross margin is worth it. And it's not a case of greed. It's a case of this is unsustainable. You know what I mean? With more profit, you pay more tax, which is good for the country. Yeah. And with more profit, you can grow and increase more people. So, and also, you've got to separate yourself from fast fashion, which is a dying industry. And also, on a psychological perspective, it's weird, and men do this a lot, is they associate quality with price, which is not necessarily true, but a lot of men in particular think so. So, which is really interesting. So we kept the price increase at men's at around 60%, and we sold more. And I was like, that's weird. Because I always wanted to make a brand like Zara, which was always affordable. But when you're making a bit more edgy stuff, and I guess Zara is so big, but when you're making let's say MDV is a modern brand and known within the youth or people our age or whatever, and they identify it as a brand, not like a retailer, so to speak. When men wear clothes, they want to wear something which is expensive. So other men look at them and they look rich, which is wild, but I guess that's how it goes. So that's why it worked. Instead of charging £30 for a tee, we was charging £70 for the same tee. The product and the quality stood up, no doubt. Same thing. It was the exact same thing, but they was like, oh, I'm wearing a £70 tee now, not a £30 one, which is crazy. Yeah. But women are a little different.
Men's mentality though, isn't it?
Yeah, women are a little bit different. They want to pay more, but not too much, where they're like, that's too expensive.
Yeah.
So for example, if an average cargo pant is 40, 35 pound on fast fashion. Ours is 90. So more than double, but not, it's a trouser ultimately as well. So it's timeless. You can wear a trouser for
anything.
Many years as well. So it's an investment piece. £90, not too much to be like, you know what, I really need to save for 2 months to buy this. It's still on the edge of spontaneity.
Yeah.
Whereas men, they want to pay 180, they want to pay 200. And
to get that look.
And I don't think I'll ever stretch to that far because it doesn't really sit well with me. But I understand the mentality. Men respect price, not design.
Oh, it's just the thing. You see loads of guys dripped out in designer, or maybe that's the reason why, essentially, you know, to look rich in other people's eyes. You know, if we went out right now and we saw a guy head to toe in, I don't know, LV, Dior, etc., he could have spent his whole life savings on the LV, Dior. Do you know what I mean? But he looks rich. Or maybe not to you. You probably see straight through the bullshit. But to me, I might be like, yo, this guy balling.
Yeah, and it's crazy. It's a crazy world. I feel like men do things to impress other men, and women do things to impress women, which it
should be the other way around.
It should be reversed. But yeah, going back to, for example, when we started, that world wasn't how it is. Designer clothes wasn't such a big thing, but on the rise of social media, the rise of being able to see your favorite rapper dripped out head to toe, that changed the mentality towards a high street brand. Nobody wants to wear high street stuff. They want to wear designer. They prefer to spend £600 on a t-shirt wear one time than
£60 wearing, you know, a few times.
This episode is brought to you by Sonomos. Now, if you don't already know about Sonomos, I don't know where you've been, because they got some of the nicest and most long-lasting perfumes out there. One of my top favorites is the Arabian Nights oil, and just a couple drops keep you smelling fresh the whole day. Sonomos have got stores all over the UK, so chances are wherever you're watching this from, they've probably got a store near you, and if not, they're also online based as well, so there's no reason for you not to get it. And if you don't know what fragrance you want to get, I suggest going to the store, checking them all out and seeing which one you like the most. So get your Sonomos fix today and use the code CEOCAST15 for 15% off your purchase.
So where did the real growth of MDV come from then? Starting the brand and having success whilst you're playing football, right? Where was the turning point of where it was like, okay, this is actually serious now?
When I stopped, going back to what people said, you know, your focus is fully on the business. It definitely wasn't, because when it was, it grew faster. But leads me on to my point. I do genuinely believe, unless your name's Elon Musk, you can only focus on one thing at a time, make it exceptional. Us mere mortals, you know, that's what we have to do. We have to go hard all the time. He's
crazy, next level. He just bought Twitter as well.
Yeah. It's unfathomable. But I think when I give it full focus, you know, I lived it, thought about it every day, was obsessed about it, and obviously, and self-critical at all times. Even though I was always doing well, I was always like, I always had the mentality, is like, don't fall off, because I fell off once. It's never going to happen again. So I always thinking, as much as we're doing well, what am I missing? How can we make sure that in 10 years' time, I'm still standing? And that mentality still applies to this day in everything I do. The decisions I make today are for how the brand's still relevant in 10 years' time. And every thought process about that. But going back to the original question, just pure focus, an obsession, and sacrifice, you know, like I said, I was 25, I was still playing at a decent level, still earning decent money. And everyone thought I was crazy because I still had decent potential. And who knows what I would be doing now, where I'd be playing, and what I'd be earning. But I always thought, you know, I think long term, what I said, I was 25, then realistically, if I get to where if say playing Premier League, I might have been 28, 29, 30. And then you've got, you know, two years left of that.
So you start retiring, getting to that age, isn't it, where, you know, slowly you got to think about your other options, your future options. And if you haven't made it in football by 30, 35, and you haven't hit your financial figures, what do you do next after that?
And and I, obviously, at my age now, I played with a lot of people my age, a little bit older, a little bit younger. And people do ask me that question a lot now, like, I'm coming to the end. Like, it's daunting. Like, I have to think about what's next. All I've known is take instruction and be here at a certain time for 15 years. What's next? And that's a really daunting thing, because you've got to be alone. You've got to think for yourself, and you've got to be in your own head every day and know, what is my purpose? What do I even enjoy? And I was lucky in that aspect, because I always knew what I liked. I always liked entrepreneurship, even subconsciously, and I always liked fashion. So I'm super lucky like that. And obviously I like football. But to know what you want to do in life is super rare, and you're lucky if you find it at an early age.
That's kind of like, it must be kind of hard for footballers in that sense, because it's a complete switch of mindset. Like, let's just say they come out of football, let's just say 33 years old, and to start a business is a complete different switch, because for your whole life you've been listening to a manager or your other teammates, etc., not taking orders, but taking instructions. And for you to start a business, you got to be the one setting instructions, setting the orders and everything. So that's a complete switch. So it's kind of hard to just do that. It's my transition.
Yeah, it's very hard, extremely hard. And that's why I feel like as much as stick footballers get some fare, because they have to earn that much money, because most people don't earn the money that, people talk about online. Like the majority of Premier League footballers, let's say 50k a week is the average. It's a lot of money in the real world, but that's got to last them their whole life. Their standard of living is way higher than an average person. So naturally, their spending is a lot higher. They're under pressure and scrutiny at all times. And as you said, when you get to 33, your whole world changes. And that's a price that people who don't play football, who don't stop earning X amount per month to zero instantly, will never have to understand. So I think they treat them fairly, and they provide a lot of value and entertainment for a lot of people. So in my opinion, they deserve it.
So I mean, they've got to make their investments wisely whilst they're getting the money, right? I mean, unless you're Ronaldo, you're making, how much does Ronaldo make a week? I'm not too clued on football.
Probably $500,000,
Yeah, so that's crazy. I mean, he probably could stop playing football and just live.
This is Ronaldo. This is the GOAT, He could have done that 10 years ago.
So by this comes out, there's speculation right now whether Man U drop him. They're trying to terminate the contract, do some legal action. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, they will. And there's obviously a lot of talk about the interview and is he wrong? And maybe he is, but like I said, we're talking about arguably the best player ever. Yeah. Who I and many football fans, and you obviously know of him, I know you're not maybe a huge football fan, but he's been on top for 20 years. That's the definition of genius level talents. And he's had one average season, and he had a trauma with his childbirth, etc. And look at the scrutiny he's taken, and that goes to show in this game, if Ronaldo can get it, nobody's safe. This is like a lot of people's idols, and like I said, he's been bad for not even half a season, and or average, not even bad, average for half a season, and he's getting memed, he's getting criticized. I just think the lack of disrespect is. The lack of respect is insane. But I think that's the point of life, like when you get to that level, when you get high, people are always going to try and take shots. And going back to my point, you can't fall off. The moment you slip, they're going to be on you. Especially in his situation, he's good looking, he's got a nice wife, he's got beautiful children, he's got everything. He's the perfect person to attack. And it's hard for me to watch, actually, and I know other people feel the same way, because I don't care if he plays bad for the rest of his career. I'm so thankful for those.
Because the way he's paved the way.
Yeah.
The respect he gets for that alone.
But the young generation, they have no respect.
Would you say it's the same sort of thing within the fashion industry?
It's different. It's business. You know what I mean? It's, businesses and owners shouldn't be connected. I mean, sometimes they are naturally because of social world. But in the old days, no. Like, you didn't know who the owner of a brand was. You just do now.
Yeah.
But I think that the principle still remains. People forget what people have done, for how long, and how long they will continue to do it. So when people are, have a moment of excellence, I don't really judge them. I support it, and I'll be the first person to say they're doing their thing, respect. But I let people do it for 3, 5, 10 years, and I'll give you flowers, because I've seen people come and go. Footballers have come and go.
Yeah.
He's been here for 20 years.
Yeah, so he's been around, isn't it?
But people just short memories, as they say, like, live long enough to see yourself become a villain, right?
I literally saw that statement the other day. Die as a hero or live, love. Yeah, crazy. One thing I want to ask you about, Reece, your face isn't necessarily attached to your brand. And this is something we were speaking about a couple of weeks ago or something like that, where it's almost, you've got a cap to it. If you put your face to a brand, you could easily have Reece Wabara plastered all over your website. I think the only thing that I can see is the fact that MDV only follows one person, and that's yourself, right? Why is that you haven't gone down the whole route of putting your face to the brand and essentially like that?
It's not about me. The brand was never centered around me. It was centered around selling dog clothes for a lot of people, and that is it's the same. It's the same mentality now. Right now, I'm the founder, CEO, and it won't be forever. Somebody else will do that, and somebody will be leading the ship. I'm just the person leading the ship right now. But yeah, I always, like I said, I want to be here in 10 years. If you make it about me, and my reputation goes to tatters, and the brand does too. And it doesn't matter if people attack me or people say what they want. They don't care. Most of the customers don't even know me. Do you know what I mean? Even if I'm following one person, I don't know how many people ever click that one or people care.
Yeah.
They only care about the value we serve, and making sure that we provide good clothes at good prices that last a long time. And that's all that matters. And I think a lot of businesses have started out of ego rather than the intent of creating profits to hire more people and build the economy. That's how economies build, you understand? And my objective from the beginning, like I said, was just to make cool clothes. Very, very, very quickly did I realize this is a business. This needs to last a long time. And as I said, experiencing one failure, I don't want someone to say, oh, that brand fell off. That was a little bit of ego, absolutely. But obviously in business principles, still a very good philosophy.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I see people making decisions, like I talk to a lot of people, right? You know, people ask me for business advice and stuff, and they're asking about some decisions they should make. And the way they make their decisions is based off personal ego or personal beliefs. And I'm like, don't do that, because that's not with the business's mind at the forefront. They're thinking about their self first and then business second, whereas in your case, it's always business first and see what the business position of you is second.
100%. A lot, like I said, a lot of people make brands for ego, for street validation, for general validation, to say I own X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if you get to the levels everybody aspires to be, that comes with it. Do you know what I'm saying? That's part of the game. So I don't care. Like I said, all I care is about people respect me. Wherever I go, people show me love. Online's online. But if people see me, they show me love and respect the journey and the longevity. And again, that comes with it, but that was never the objective. The objective was to make sure the brand grows profitably for a long time, and I can make sure the staff who have been with me from the beginning earn a lot of money. And in the end, when we exit, we'll all get paid. That's the only objective, and still is now. Going back to your question about selling, when the time's right, maybe, but in the moment, whilst I'm fully in the game, it's just about making sure everything lasts a long time.
This is what I found amazing as well, because we were speaking sometime and you were telling me how many people work at your company?
Around 65.
See, in my head, doesn't sound like a lot for the company of that size. Why is it so small? Because you hear companies that are doing around the same sort of revenue, for example, right? And they've got hundreds of employees. So why is it that your team's still relatively small?
Efficiency is the name of the game. I think, again, going back to ego, you see when businesses start to grow, they say, oh, we bought this new 100,000 square foot warehouse. We have this new fancy shiny office. We're making 100 hires. And a lot of people, that's what they genuinely do, because it's a nice statement, right?
Nice little headline.
Yeah, and the owners can look like they're making moves. But like I said, if you're making moves for 1 year and then you fall off for the rest, it makes no difference. You can have the headline. But people, going back to what I said about Ronaldo, you're only as good as your last year. So people are going to, you might get a few messages saying, oh, you're killing it, bro. And then next minute, nobody's around.
Yeah.
So the name of the game is efficiency. You do what you need. You have what you need then. And most of the time, we're all naturally inefficient. So my staff, they're probably tired of me saying, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. We can do this faster. We can do this better. So why am I going to hire more people or have a bigger premises when we're not even maximizing what we've got currently?
At the moment, yeah.
And of course, as people improve and become more knowledgeable, you find more efficiencies. Anyway, we can only be as efficient as our skill set today. And that's naturally how businesses grow. They grow because they get better from the previous year. Yeah. Sometimes you have the economies playing a part, and naturally things rise and fall, and industry rise and fall, but generally it's just improving on what you was doing last year. So I will hire what we need, what will make us better once we are already efficient, not just hiring for hiring's sake or having a bigger premises for bigger premises sake. This makes no sense.
Yeah, this is why I wanted to get you on, because like I said in the beginning, you're a true transparent entrepreneur. You don't see many headlines apart from like Sunday Times Rich List, for example. You're in that, of course. But you don't see headlines coming out everywhere saying, Reece Wabara this, Reece Wabara that, MDV this, MDV that. What you're doing is the business speaks for itself, essentially, right? You see we're living in a day and age where everyone's doing press runs, making these headlines, this headline. You think to yourself, or to the general public, they probably think, wow, crazy. But then as an entrepreneur or someone who interviews entrepreneurs, you think, what's the agenda behind this sort of thing? Do you know what I mean? And that's why I respect you, because everything's transparent to a point where you even tweet your revenue sometimes and you share it with your audience. So why do you do that, firstly, before I move on? Why do you, showcase your revenue and show everyone that this is what we're doing?
Well, first of all, revenue's vanity and profit sanity. So, the profit's there on the company's house. But going back to what you said in the first part of the statement, in the end, the results are all that matters. And last man standing is what counts. If you go to a company's house and check a company, all of the headlines if the balance sheet is terrible, the headlines make no sense.
Yeah.
Look, people don't check balance sheets. People just look at the headlines. That's the time we live in. And I get it. It's cool. But it's a trend. You know what I mean? You're trying to be timeless. So if your balance sheet is solid and over time you're the last man standing, people will pay attention eventually. But going back to answer your question about why I show things, is to show people it can be done. I'm a normal person. If people see me around, they go, oh, it's normal.
Yeah, normal
You'll
guy,
speak to, 100. Yeah. Sometimes you just got to silence people. But always, you followed me for many years. I've always been trying to put out knowledge, trying to make people improve, make people see things differently, and just give nuggets where I can. So my primary objective is to make the world, make people, more independent, earn more money. I want everybody to win. So
why though? What does that do for you?
I don't know. I've never thought of it. It's just always been natural. I've always just liked to try and help people. The biggest brands in the UK, all of those I've met them for dinner. They've called my phone. I've given them contacts. Those are things people don't see. Those things I've always naturally done. I don't want to see people lose, especially when I feel like they're working hard. Because sometimes people just need to be pointed in the right direction. You can be working your ass off, but if you're running in the right direction, you're going nowhere.
Place, yeah.
Sometimes people just need a tweak, and I get happy when I see other people win. That's being a human being, just helping people.
I can say that from personal experience as well. I mean, you've helped me when we met up last time. You gave me a few pointers here and there. And as much as I thought I was working hard and everything, which I still think I was working hard, it was probably just, once again, just little misdirection off the path of the way I was meant to go on. And you said X, Y, Z. And I'd say since that point, probably been going back on the straight path and everything. So it's literally just something small as that. But then just because you've helped me and you've helped other people, we might not speak about it, so people might not see it. But then you'll get other people. It's just like doing charitable acts in a sense here, where people do something and then share it with the whole world. I done this, I done that, I done this, I done that. And that's what's, you think to yourself, you didn't do it out of the love and genuineness of yourself. You've done it for something else.
That's not my style, honestly. If that was the case, people would see me as something, it's not special, but I've done a lot for a lot of people. And again, like I said, that's what, for me, being a human is. And of course, people only ever see the other side. They only see like, oh, he's got money and he's doing well, and looks are subjective, or whatever, style is subjective. But when you have things going through, naturally it's easy to attack. It's easy to paint someone as the bad guy, isn't it? It's just how it goes. And I understand that. It's the cost to be the boss. It's just how it goes. But sometimes it can be draining, because I'm like, damn, like, do you know how many people have took from the down, and they're down and they're good now. And even those people, they forget sometimes. They forget to say thank you. And that's all, like, for me personally, that's all I ever want to do, is say, thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like that, where you help some people out and then they just not forget about you, but you think, how much did you appreciate it? Like, are you grateful for it?
But then going back to what you said, my objective was to help. A thank you would be nice, but my objective still remains the same. But back to what you said, I've always just been wanting to give out my experience. I lived everything I've talked about, and I think in the world of, as you said then, a lot of artificial headlines, etc. And I don't like to say fake entrepreneurs, because anybody taking a plunge is an entrepreneur, but people appearing bigger than they are and talking from a perspective they've not lived is abundant in the common world, in the world. So I just feel like I should speak on things I have lived, and people can tell the difference between someone who's speaking authentically and someone who's re-scripting something that they've heard someone else say. And even when I speak flowingly, people can see I'm not bullshitting, do you know what I'm trying to say? And I think people need that.
I'd counter one thing you say there, though. You said entrepreneur, if someone who takes that plunge is an entrepreneur, right? But I think, once again, going back to today's society, I think we're living in a day and age where people refer to the entrepreneur word as being a cool thing, right? So I can, just because I've registered a business on company's house, I'm now an entrepreneur. Do you know what I'm saying? I feel like I see that all the time on social media. You come across loads of people's profiles, and what's it called? You know, when you can see the profile category and it says entrepreneur, and literally started the business yesterday. So I think it's just something where people want to be cool now, so they label themselves an entrepreneur.
It's true. It's kind of going back to ego. Okay, let me rephrase that. If somebody puts numbers on the board and takes a risk, they're an entrepreneur, even if they fail. I respect that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they've never put numbers on the board or borrow, a lot of people borrow the hell out of money, liquidate themselves. Are you an entrepreneur? No, because the risk isn't on you. For me personally, I always wanted to put my own money on the line and my own head on the line. That keeps me on job, a skin in the game to this day. No investments, no nothing. Everything. If we lose, I lose ultimately.
Yeah.
The staff will go and get other jobs, high level jobs. You know, they've worked for the business.
They've got the skill set to do so.
100%. But I will lose everything. And that's okay because that's the cost and I get the rewards from that too. But the risk is all on my head. So there's a lot of people with, going back to valuations, high net worth valuations based on the fact they have a small percent of a huge company. So, but they don't even make the decisions. They have a boss ultimately. And I think being an entrepreneur means that everything is on your head. You put your own money up. You take all the risk. And of course, you should be rewarded for that in due course. And it's the hardest thing ever. How many entrepreneurs fail? Like I said earlier, especially in the current climate, it's really hard out here.
Do you believe in that typical saying where people say that the most successful entrepreneurs have failed businesses previously?
I think they failed in life. Not necessarily in business. They failed in life. They took trauma. They took pain. Going to all of the most successful entrepreneurs I know, they had struggle. People, and the thing is, they never talk about it because they're not a victim mentality. So people don't talk about their struggle when they're successful because one, nobody cares. You're successful. Stop crying. And two, they don't even think about it themselves. I know we alluded to the football, but that was a question asked. But I won't just talk about it. It's no point. It's past. You know what I mean?
You've gone past it. You've got places to go to. Why are you going to keep looking at the past, essentially?
Correct, and I learned from it, so I'm indebted to that experience.
Yeah.
So there's many other traumatic experiences, but they all shape the character. So it's the game.
Do you think people are cut out to be entrepreneurs, or do you think it's something they're born with? Like, someone watching this right now who wants to start their business and wants to be an entrepreneur, what would you say to them?
It's the sacrifice that most people won't be willing to take. Sacrifice of fun. You know, I don't go on holiday often. I don't have that many friends. I have the same friends since I was young. You don't know who you to surround yourself with in terms of females. Everybody has a motive, and that's a sacrifice. Is that worth money? That's a subjective question. Nobody knows until you're either on both sides of the spectrum. But no, I think your parents shape you, depending on their mindset, of course. That can shape someone into an entrepreneur. Trauma can shape you from experiences that say, you know what, I don't want to have my future in someone else's hands. And that's about it, really. I just don't think you can read books and get it. Yeah. Work rate is intrinsic. I think that's something you can't create. You either got it or you don't. Yeah. I think brain power and the brain in itself can grow crazy if you really read every day, experience things, connect the dots. Your brain can naturally improve. However, some people's brains are just wired differently. But you can definitely improve a lot. But you can't create work rate. So it's a difficult question.
What's it like for you being in the position you're in right now? Because going on the fact of, having the same friends, same friendship circle, dating life, for example, what's it like? Someone with your worth, the businesses that you have, do you ever question someone's intentions when they walk into your life? Whether it be a girl, whether it be a guy friend that you've just met, they're trying to be buddy with you.
You have to. But I remember saying this from a young age, like, the world revolves around money, sadly. But I'm a realist. I see things as they are. I understand what people want. And as long as there's an equal value exchange, that's cool. If it's a one-way street, no chance. Doesn't make sense. But let's keep it real. I'm never going to meet someone today, whether that's a guy friend or a female, and go, oh, they love me for Reece the person. I believe Reece the person as a character. I'm a nice person and interesting, subjective to what you're talking about. But of course, they see the other side of it. And that side is obviously there's perks to be gained. So it's never going to be 100% sure. But like I said, as long as they have their equal value exchange, well, we're both getting equal value, right? So that's how relationships work anyway. I mean, when people get married, it's not because it's 100% favorable to one side. It's equal.
You've got something, I've got something.
It's just life.
It works.
It's just life. Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Bambee. So when you're running your business, your employees can create all types of interesting situations. For example, when someone isn't showing up when they're supposed to be, or running extremely late. And with Bambee, you can get access to your own dedicated HR manager for just $99 per month. They're available by phone, email, and real-time chat. So onboarding and terminations run smoothly, your team members reach their peak performance, and your business stays compliant with HR regulations. And with Bambee's HR Autopilot, you'll automate important HR practices such as setting policies, training, and feedback. And with Bambee's dedicated HR managers, they're US-based, dedicated to your business, giving you the access to HR expertise and personal touch that you need. And think about it like this, HR managers can easily cost up to 80 grand a year, and with Bambee, it's only $99 per month. So schedule your free conversation today with Bambee and see how much they can take off of your plate. So go to Bambee.com right now and type in CEOCAST on the podcast when you sign up. It will really help the show. Just look at the reviews for yourself. Bambee has over 1,000 active clients and over 1,000 5-star reviews. So make sure you visit the link on the screen right now or in the description below.
So just moving on ever so slightly, right? In terms of actual business now, marketing, Facebook ads has, everyone claims it to be dead now because you can't can't find where the traffic's actually going, am I right? Or something along them lines. So how do you do your social media marketing now, or marketing in general?
The same as I've always done, to be honest. Like I said, with to you in person, the update from iOS prevented the tracking. So, for example, Facebook can't serve ads as accurate as it once did because they can't find your interest because a lot of the data is broken. However, it still serves. It may just not be as precise, but it still works. The fundamentals remain the same, and I think that applies in life. A lot of things focus on the fundamentals, and there's always going to be variances. There's always going to be good years, bad years, but the fundamentals will shine through. So the fundamentals in my aspect is making sure the product's good, priced right, good. Make sure the creatives are good, and make sure you're still targeting the right audiences. Yes, they can't be as specific as they once was, but you can still target, pretty much within reason.
Yeah, the right places,
right demographic, the right age range, the right gender, etc. You can still target what you want. And also, as I said, Facebook also declined as well. It's because so many people were spending on it. Naturally, when more people are on a platform, the cost to reach 1,000 users is called CPM starts to increase because you're bidding against more people.
100%,
However, now with a lot of e-coms that were created from COVID and was booming in all effect, I've gone too far with the overheads and started thinking that trend was going to continue, and unfortunately aren't traded anymore, or really struggling. So a lot of that spend has been pulled out of marketing. They can't afford to spend. They don't have the cash flow, or the return is not coming back. Therefore, now the CPMs are dropping again. So there's a good opportunity to market again.
So is it situations of, like, let's just say previously before the iOS update thing, right? You could put money onto Facebook ads and you could see the return from that specific ad, right? Mm-hmm. Now you can't see that as much, but I'm assuming you put money into Facebook ads and you see around the same sort of time period if revenue comes in, or what? How's it
No, you can still see. It still tracks. It's just that the tracking itself, the targeting itself isn't as good. Therefore, your ROAS is typically less.
Okay.
So you still can see and track most things, and of course, there's some tracking that's going to be lost. So you might get more purchase than the pixel shows you. However, the pixel is just not as strong.
Yeah.
So literally, probably. If you was on Facebook ads in 2014, 15, 16, and you knew what you was doing and you understand business to a high level, you would have killed it. I didn't understand business to a high level. So in retrospect, again, going back to golden years, I could have spent way more and grown more fast, but hindsight's a beautiful thing. But in those years of 2019, 2021, everybody was literally just, even the book I sold, which was a good period, everybody was following the same path. Let's get a product, go on ads, run an ad, get ROAS, and it worked. Everybody was eating. Then obviously things changed. iOS broke everything. Tracking got less. And obviously, if your return gets less, you can't spend as much for businesses stop growing. And if you heavily relied on that single source, you're in trouble, especially if you've got overheads at a certain level now and the sales aren't coming in as they once was. You're in trouble, do you know what I mean? But there's a bit of a golden patch now. I think in the next 2-3 years, if you're in the game and you're maintaining, there's a good opportunity to grow, which is what I will fully be taking effect of.
Are you going to release like another marketing strategy, same way you done with a book, for example. I remember the amount of times people messaged me saying, "Yeah, I got Reece Wabara's book for 50 quid if you want it." Yeah, you keep that. But I'm thinking at the same time, man. I should have taken it, but I didn't have a business to apply it to. I'm looking to apply it to CEOCAST. CEOCAST didn't even exist then.
True.
But would you release something now? Obviously, now that things have updated, where times have changed slightly, probably especially a lot more, because you released the book before COVID, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So then times would have changed probably after COVID and the way we're living now. So would something that you release in the future?
Yeah, I was considering it recently because, like I said, I'm not one of these people who's just gonna release things for release sake, because I know I'll everything will sell because people trust me. But I'll always only release things or do things if I think I can add value. That's why I don't do many podcasts, because I could do a podcast every week. I'm going to say the same thing. My perspective hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Going back to what you said about the ads, my perspective has changed. Like I said, the fundamentals still apply, but there are small tweaks, and also there is an opportunity. If I would have released a new book in the last 2 years, I would have been lying to my audience because it wasn't a good time to try it. Now maybe. So it's something I'm considering. Yeah.
Where do you get your knowledge from? Is it something you've just accumulated and learned over the 9 years of you doing business, or is it like, being in the right circles, obviously, and learning from other people all the time, which you do, of course, but where does it more fundamentally come from?
The bulk of my knowledge is just being in the game. Like I said, living and breathing it, connecting dots, seeing. I always look back in 6 months ago and I think, what the hell was I doing? I was stupid. Yeah. And obviously I'm not stupid, but I genuinely think, how did I miss that? And just identifying that and fixing it, and actually you get a feedback loop of improvement. Reading a lot, observing a lot, listening to a lot. Fortunately, I have friends who are also in the game. We learn from each other a lot. Just, common problems. We always have the same problems anyway, and none of us sometimes have fixes at times. It is what it is. But just being in the game, I think, like I said, if anybody really, 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 really goes for it, and I'm talking, that's all they think about, they're going to naturally connect dots. If you go half-hearted, the dots don't connect. That's as simple as that. And I always say that to my staff, like, connect the dots. And if you're looking hard enough, you'll find and you'll spot patterns and go, oh, that makes sense because of this. This doesn't make sense because of this. And naturally, then you become super intelligent. And it's not, no one's born super intelligent.
It's just got something you got to analyze and fix, basically.
Yeah, and like, you may inherit your parents' brain structure who's, let's say if I had kids, maybe my kids will be naturally have brain cells to connect the dots, for example. But if they don't do nothing, they're still going to be dumb. It's the truth. If they do nothing, if they play video games all day, and that's no disrespect because some of those guys are killing it, but they're not the smartest in business or the smartest in the real world of spotting patterns, you've still got to take the action. It's just like having all the tools and all the money in the world to start a business. If you don't have the tools, it doesn't matter how many influencer brands or footballers with a lot of money have started and plowed things into it, and then 2 years later it's gone and nobody talks about it. It's not because of money. It's not even because of what they did necessarily. It's just that they just didn't have the brain cells or the desire and give them 1,000% to make it work. Yeah, you can throw money at anything all day long, but if you're not trying, it's not going to work.
How much did you start your business with?
15.
And you've still got 100% ownership of
83.
That's shared with Lewis, though, isn't it?
Lewis has 17. Yeah.
Yeah. So literally, just you two. I mean, no investors, and you've built it to this scale.
Yeah.
Do you ever get to a point where, you want to try new things as well? So let's just say, hypothetically, I've got a brand, you see a vision in it. Do you ever come across situations where you're like, you know what, Raheem, here's some money, I'll invest in you, here's my, give me this percentage, etc. Do you ever do that sort of stuff? Or
it's something I'm open to. I would, at this stage, I wouldn't start something myself because, like I said, I'm in the game, so you physically just don't have the time to do two things at the same level unless you're Elon. But yeah, I'm definitely open to investing in people. I think it's people more so than businesses, because there's many people in, for example, COVID, they put numbers on the board, but they spent all the profits. There's the character. And I'm investing in characters who can get the long-term game and the self-sacrifice even when they're flying. If I recognize that in somebody, then yeah, 100% willing to invest in them, but they have to get it. Do you understand? Like when you're seeing millions of profit and you're reinvesting millions of profit, that is a sign of character. Not buying fancy houses.
Yeah, seeing millions of profit, buying, the latest Rolls Royce or whatever it is at the time, spending all your profit basically. Yeah,
you can't spend all your profit. Of course, you have to enjoy it. What's the point otherwise? But yeah, you can't make $1 million and take out $1 million or even half that. You might take 10% of that, 20% of that. cool, that's a comfortable life compared to most anyway. I get that. You've got to have some enjoyment. You have to make it feel worth it along the way. But when I'm seeing people stretch themselves and stretch the business, more importantly, and putting the business in a fragile position for their personal gain, you're in the game for the wrong reason. Because don't forget, businesses aren't the individual, it's the people within it. I won't do anything that puts the staff at risk because I have the responsibility to look after all of those people.
Of them, yeah.
And we had a team meeting recently, actually, and I said to them, you don't have to like me, that's fine, but one thing I will promise you is that you will learn, you'll improve, and you'll be paid well. And I don't care if you like me, I'm going to promise you those 3 things because that is my job.
Is that what you actually said to them?
Yeah, 100%. And I hopefully they like me, but that is my job. My job is to make them grow, not make it easy, but to make them grow and make them earn, and give them knowledge that it's there for life and experience.
How do you go around picking your staff members, whether it be someone in the marketing department, design department? How do you go around finding those people?
Oh, it's very difficult. I think staff is definitely the hardest part of the
because that's what everyone says. Everyone says that staff is the hardest thing about any business, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's e-com.
Yeah, and obviously fashion is very subjective, so everybody likes to think they're the creative genius, right? So it's difficult. Like I said, going back to character, I feel like even if you don't have the skills as such in the beginning, if I see someone's kind of connect the dots, be curious, hardworking, I give them a chance. Of course, they have to, at this stage now, they have to show me, or the person hiring, their manager, for example, they have to show me that they've been to university and they've done that. Not that I necessarily care, but it shows that they took a little bit of sacrifice and they was dedicated towards that career path for a certain amount of time. Yeah. But they don't have to be the smartest person from that. They don't have to have the best grades or whatever it is. They just have to show me in an interview that they want it. They're passionate, they're curious, and they're going to connect the dots. And they'll learn the rest of the skills as time progresses. Like I said, when I started, I didn't know how to do nothing. All I know is that looks good. I like it and I think people will buy it. That was the fundamentals of it. Now I'm pretty high level skilled in most of the areas that I need to be. Of course, a lot to improve, but I didn't start that way.
Being a CEO, do you think it's necessary for you to learn all departments so you know what you're talking about, for example, when you're going to these meetings? Yeah,
absolutely. I think I speak to a lot of people and they say, oh, I'm not good at that, which is a good skill to identify, but they completely ignore it. They're like, I'm not good at that. I'm not going to pay any interest in that. And then they get burned. So a lot of people don't understand finances, but they might have a really good vision or creativity and vice versa. And there might be things they don't enjoy and they don't want to do it. So they delegate it. And before you know it, you're overpaying for people. People are telling you it takes 5 hours and it takes 2. You're going into a finance meeting and your business is sinking and you don't know it. You're trying to raise capital and you don't understand that by giving them X, Y, and Z, you're putting yourself in a position to get ousted out.
Yeah.
So you have to study every area, and of course it's overwhelming for many, myself included at times. But I know I prefer to do the dark, hard work in all of those areas and getting the business taken from me, or not know what's going on in the operations and customer service, and the customers aren't getting the package on time, or they're getting treated like shit.
Yeah.
I have to know.
Yeah, I think it's good to know everything, to be fair, as a boss, I get a lot of questions all the time on CEOCAST, how to start a podcast, for example, when people say to me, they DM me saying, I've got a camera guy, I've got the mic guy, I've got this guy, I've got that guy. And I just think, all right, if they all left you tomorrow, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You have to know everything. Like, if someone took everything away from me right now, I'd know exactly where to start again, right? And I think that's where people get caught up, because they think, if I haven't got the skill set, rather than learning it, let me just go get someone else to do it. And I think that, in my head, that's not so much of a good mindset, because I'm like...
Not in the beginning, no.
Yeah.
Not in the beginning. I think, and I respect you for what you're saying. Of course, when you're scaling and you're going to a certain point, once you've done all those jobs, you know exactly what you're looking for. So hiring gets easier.
Yeah.
And they can't bullshit you. Yeah. So then you free up your time to be in more valuable areas, like being in person with the people you're into.
Reece Wabara.
Nah, not even. But yeah, I think it's important to know the game. But people want the shiny titles, don't they? And not put in the work. Everybody who works for me knows I'll do anything. I will sweep the floor in the studio. I will tidy up the rails, put everything in order. I'll pick up a cup that's left on the side. That's just how I am. Again, going back to what I said, like that's what I would have done in the beginning. So I'm going to do that now. Of course, again, there's 65 staff. Of course, people are very important and they have roles to play, and I cannot be everywhere. but I'm going to be in touching distance of all of it. I'm going to know exactly what's going on. Whether they might execute at 90%, I'm still going to check the 10. That's not a lack of trust. That's a lack of protection for not just me, but for them. Because if you trust anyone in life 100%, and I know this may be a cynical way to live, you will probably get burned at that anyway. At the end of it, 90% is good enough. Check in on the 10. Everybody's happy.
Reece, I'd ask you, man. You're a transparent guy. Yeah, you're clear about what you want to do. Exactly. You don't really care too much about the headlines yet. Your drive and your work rate is unbelievable. So I'd ask you, what are you actually working for? What are you working towards? What does your 10-year plan look like? You know, I'm just genuinely interested because you've got anything you want right now, you can get. Holiday to Dubai, Rolls-Royce Cullinan, Van Gogh, all of it. Yeah, you can get it, right? So what is it that keeps you driven and keeps you going?
I want to be great. I want people to work with me to be great. I want to show everybody what's achievable. Like I said, being black and there's a limitation. People think you can only go one route. They think you have to fit a stereotype. And I want to show people you don't. And it's not about being black as such, whether it's white or whatever race. It's still about being great. That's an extra incentive for me. And being great is an unlimited trail because you always find ways to improve. So, as I said, there's more important things in life than business and money for sure. But right now, I don't have kids. So whilst I haven't met Mrs. Right and had a kid and settled down and gone to an island and ghosted, whilst I'm in this position, I'm trying to be great every day.
But greatness can be a subjective opinion and perspective.
True.
I'm looking at you right now and I'm like, Reece is a sick guy, great entrepreneur, great guy, greatness, right? You sitting here right now, would you say you're great?
It depends who you're asking. If you ask me, no, but I understand how other people may think that. I don't look at myself and think, oh, I'm not good. Of course, I know I'm good, and I know the business and the people within it are good. I know that. But greatness is being the best, and we're not the best. The best on the high street is Zara. They're more than great. I can't comprehend. I can break down most businesses instantly. Yeah. Zara is a different story. Everything they do, their manufacturing speed.
Would you say they inspire you?
Different models, like I said, they're faster, cheaper, way better, but it's the benchmark of longevity. Whilst everyone around them's H&M, it's going down, Topshop's gone, the high street's in trouble. They're thriving. So as a model, it kind of inspires, but of course it has to be different.
So just a quick one on that point there. You're saying Zara has longevity, right? What is it about the business that makes it longevity? Because I thought you would have said retail store, for example, but then H&M is going down, Topshop's already gone. So what is it that gives Zara that longevity and yourself?
Well, product first and foremost. I think at market size, they have great product, great prices. Their perception is high end. Their website's crazy. I'm sure everybody can agree with that. But their stores are always in the best locations. They're always furnished incredibly. And you can always grab something from Zara, whether that's me, you, my mom, your mom, auntie, cousins. Going to Zara, you can pick something up.
Yeah, I literally grabbed a shirt for Formula 1 yesterday as well from Zara.
That's what I'm saying. You always know what you're getting from there, and their market's such a big size. Again, I can't appeal to that level of market, but I do take inspiration on market size. I think.
Why can you not appeal to that level of market?
You can. It just takes time. You can't try and grow it, please everyone too soon, because you lose track of what you're trying to achieve.
Women, would you say that's what gives you that? I mean, if we're talking figures and success, essentially, not so much success is measured differently, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of figures, would you say women is where it's at?
Yeah, 100%. Even having a menswear brand is.
So you shifting from menswear, because I remember all my boys back in the day used to wear MDV tracksuits. I remember one of my boys, he had one of the first people in the area anyway to have it was like suede trainers that you had. Yeah. So he had them and everything. And that's when I haven't seen many boys wear it since. So is that almost like a transitional point for you?
Yeah, it was on purpose. I remember speaking about it a long time ago. Like I said, especially when you have an affordable, visible brand, you're just a trend. Once that name is dead, you are dead and your brand's dead.
Yeah.
So it was a natural decision to remove the logo from many things, make it more about fashion. And again, I understood that would kill sales because most men typically cannot dress. they wear what everybody else is wearing. That's just how it is. Women can think for themselves a bit more freely in terms of fashion. They'll take a bit more of a risk. They'll have their own sense of style. Men just wear simple stuff.
Yeah.
And I always knew that. I identified that from early. So you're right. If I see people in MDV, it's non-branded stuff. It's just clean stuff. You know what I mean? Like simple stuff, well fitted, good quality. But if you go anywhere in the world to a club or a restaurant, wherever I go, I see women in MDV, or women will come up to me and say, "Oh my God, I love your brand. It's so cool, X, Y, and Z." That's where the money's at. When women are texting in their group chat, "Oh my God, I just tried this brand." As men, we don't do that. We could pick something up that's crazy. I mean, I don't really have WhatsApp group chats, but more often you want to keep it to yourself. You want to be the fly guy, right? Yeah. Whereas women are like, "Babe, get this, get this, get this."
They'll do shopping haul with all the girls in the group chats and everything like that. Where'd you get that dress from? Here, etc.
And again, going back to what you said about ego, most men start brands so they can see other men wear their stuff and get validated from that man. I don't care. And firstly, I don't want validation from men. I want validation from nobody. But if I'm going to choose one, I prefer it to be women. You understand? And like I said, women are unbelievable in many ways. But as far as business is concerned, they shop more frequently, they spend more, and they promote your brand more for free. So that's a natural thing to do.
So then how do you stay in touch with, obviously, if you're predominantly women's wear, right? How do you stay in touch with that? You being a male yourself, how do you navigate your way through the designs and what they want?
Again, when you're not biased as a man, you have your own personal taste. I have my own personal taste. You'll naturally make what you like. As a man, I can't be biased towards what women. I just see objectively what women are wearing and connect some dots and go, well, I always see women wearing this type of silhouette, this type of color, and I make my own
something like that
assumptions. You know what I mean? Whereas if I'm a man, I'm like, oh, I don't like how those fit. But the whole other side of the market might like a different fit. But because I like it, I don't want to make it. So I can be less biased and can just look super objectively. So in essence, it's actually easier.
Have you ever made something that you don't like, and probably you don't even like looking at it, but it bangs?
Not necessarily don't like looking at it, but something I wouldn't wear. Yeah, of course. Like I said, I have my own sense of style, and the stuff that I would like is made from niche high fashion brands, which aren't necessarily big, but that's my style. Do you understand? So if I make that, I'm going to be broke because most men can't pull it off. They might say, "Oh, that's cool," and you can make. There's many brands there. There's like really cool conceptual brands, and everybody thinks they're creative geniuses. Which that's their objective.
You talk about like the artsy ones and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I respect the talent 100%. And if that's their objective to be applauded as being creative and not earn much money, then that's good for them. But for me, no, that doesn't make sense.
Now's pretty much a good time to go into ask people on Instagram what they want to ask you, and I think probably we'll just run through a few of them. So one guy asked, he must be in his 20s. He said he's got a 9-to-5 job, hasn't got a business, but got £40,000 saved up. What would you do with it?
He's doing well, then fair play to him. I don't know. Those questions are hard to ask because, I'm not 19. I don't understand what 19-year-olds are into too tough anymore. So, but he's in a good position anyway. So just stay, sit on your hands for a bit and wait until something makes you so excited you get out of bed and do it instantly. That's what I did, and that's what I always do. If something really, really makes me excited, I'm like, this is going to work, no doubt, I go for it. I don't try and find things. I don't think you should ever try and find things. I think you should always try and seek knowledge and improve and learn. And naturally, you might find an interest. I feel like when people ask me that question, like, what would you invest in, or what business would you start today?
It doesn't really work in their favor then.
No, because you're forcing your hand into something it should find you. Do you understand? And you find things by being curious. So it's difficult to answer that question. But yes, sit on your hands and you're in a good position.
That's a good answer, to be fair. Because a lot of people would just say invest into whether it's crypto, housing, buy, do a brand, etc. But I think the best thing is just wait it out.
Yeah, I think what people do is let's say they see a genre, or as you say, whether that's crypto, whether that's being an entrepreneur, whether that's, I don't know, gaming. They see a headline saying this person's killing it, or this brand's killing it, or this sector's killing it. So I want to go into that sector. Yeah. But you're too late because they've already been doing it for 3-4 years. And what's to say you can just come in and take a piece of that sector? All of the people within those sectors that are killing it as well probably live and breathe that sector. And it was their natural calling rather than they find that. Do you understand? So, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's always circumstances and situations where someone saw an opportunity which was not in their realms of passion or realms of understanding and harnessed it. But those people are really smart, like really, really business minded, probably got experience in business, seen a gap and took it. But in most situations, the biggest businesses, the biggest businesses I know, all of the founders lived and understood their realm very well.
Very well before. Yeah, fair enough. This is a good one, actually. But if you was to lose it all today, what would you do?
Going back to what I said in the last question, firstly, I have knowledge of acquired, which is worth millions. Yeah. So I know that's never, I might lose it, but I'm going to get it back. Even in failure, your knowledge is valuable. Yeah. I personally learn more from people's failures than I do their successes. And I actually study more so why people fell off rather than why people succeeded. Because people succeed for reasons that you cannot see. But failure, you can normally spot the patterns of where they went wrong. Exactly. So,
what have been the highest and the lowest moments of your life?
I don't think like that.
No?
I don't think like that. My personality is always like this. I could have a baby tomorrow or sell for £200 million and maybe I should be happy for a baby. Maybe having a baby would be a high point, but money, forget about it. I've seen it all. Losing it, forget it. I know I'll get it back. I'm kind of like nonchalant about most things.
What about the point? Obviously, we've spoken about it with the football when you realised you weren't going to be in football anymore. Wouldn't you say that was like a low point?
No, I always knew I'd be fine.
Yeah.
I'd always knew I'd find my way. I've had supreme confidence in my abilities, and I know I'll do what I need to do to get where I need to be. I don't doubt myself in terms of doing the work. So, no, I never really get down. I just keep it moving, right?
Yeah. How do you curb distractions early on so you don't get sidetracked with your success? Now, if I was to relate this into the podcast, what we've spoken about so far, in recent years, I'd probably say your move from Manchester to London. So what would it be like for your earlier days than that?
I don't think the move was to avoid distractions. That was just to find a little bit more peace. But the simple answer to the question is every distraction has a price to pay, the price you can't see in that current moment. So, for example, every time you go out, every time you get drunk, every time you do something, and you've got to do these things. I'm not saying don't do them. Understand there's something lost and you just can't see it. It's like what's a good analogy? I guess using footballers as an example, they get the contract, they get the big move, then they go out more and they think it doesn't take a toll on us then, and all of a sudden they're injured a lot. And you can't see that coming in the future, and you may never get back to full fitness. Your confidence may go and you may lose your confidence in your muscles, and you're always injured now. But in that moment, you couldn't see the price that you was about to pay. And that could be a price of a new contract. That could be a price of, longer in the game. And I think a good example is the people who are in business and the people who are athletes, even Federers and, the people, LeBrons, those people who are not doing those things. Those people aren't drinkers. Yeah. Of course they have fun. That's natural. They pay for the massages, they pay for the specialists to be around them all the time. And on the contrary of that cost there, people say, no, I'm not spending that because I don't need to, but then they get it back in the future. So it works in both ways, you know what I mean? And I think that's the biggest way to avoid the distractions. No, it's going to cost you in the future, you just can't see it yet. And also back to investing in yourself, just know it will come back to you in the future, whether that's books, courses, seminars, taking time to say, no, I'm not going there. I'm saying I'm going to gain it in the future. And as I said earlier in the podcast, that's how I make decisions now. I'll give myself 20, 30 days a year, maybe, if I'm still going to work, but maybe not 100% those days. It might be at 80%. And I'm happy with the cost that it's going to cost me in the future by not being 100 on those days. But for the rest of the year, I know that those decisions and those sacrifices are going to benefit my future family, in due course. And me also, of course. I'm planting seeds for tomorrow, effectively.
With you working so hard, right? I know obviously you take some time off like you're here right now. With you working so hard, does it ever take a toll on your mental health?
No. Again, I think seeing the world as it is and not as you want it to be helps a lot. I see quite cynically.
Being a realist, basically.
Yeah, being hyper real. I know what life is, and of course it can be depressing accepting the truth, but it's also liberating. But I feel being busy and learning, for me anyway, that's where I get the most enjoyment. I feel like I'm
living to your true potential.
Yeah, like my time on earth is being fulfilled, and I feel like I'm being grateful, and I'm taking the opportunity to thank whoever made the world and me in the lucky situation I am of being in England and having a good chance to make something of my life. I feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose. So no, I felt actually more happy when I'm working. If I sat at home doing nothing, I'd probably maybe depressed, because not only you're not fulfilling your purpose or making a difference, you're just accepting the world for what it is as well. And also the things you see on social media now, how could you think the world is an amazing place? There's a war going on now. It's social, it's crazy. So yeah.
Right, Reece, I think we're going to end the podcast there. So I want to thank you very much for coming on the CEOCAST. And before we go, Cinemasque are our sponsors of the podcast. We have a lovely perfume here for you.
Thank you very much.
And I also have another one on the table, just in case you want to give it to anyone else.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Cinemasque. Keep doing your thing.
I hope you lot all enjoyed the episode, and I hope you lot all can take some knowledge and inspiration from Reece, one of the truest and greatest entrepreneurs that have been on the channel. I can tell you that for a fact. And what a way to end the year for CEOCAST. So appreciate your time once again, Reece. And as for you lot, I'll catch you lot. We'll be back January the 8th. So make sure you tune in. Peace. That's it.
Nice, man.